We are starting a new surah today. Again, Dr. Yamina is leading the study, and we're welcome to join in with comments and questions. Assalamu alaikum. Jazakumullah khair, Sister Yamina.
Thank you, Isra. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. So inshallah, today, as Isra just said, we're starting a new surah, which is Surah Al-Mulk, which is the 67th surah in the Quran, and it consists of 30 ayahs, and it's a Meccan surah, which means it was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in Mecca. There are some hadiths related to this surah, and those hadiths give us an idea about the importance of this surah in particular, but all surahs, all parts of the Quran are important. But it's a nice reminder that these messages are important and significant and related to our lives here and now, and therefore in the future, inshallah. So there is, for instance, a hadith where we are told that the Prophet ﷺ says there is a surah in the Quran of 30 ayah, which will intercede for its companion until he is forgiven, and it is Tabarak alladhi biyadihi al-mulk, which is the first ayah of Surah Al-Mulk, meaning he's referring to Surah Al-Mulk. So this Surah Al-Mulk, we are told tashfa'u li sahibiha, which means it intercedes for its owner, its companion. The Prophet ﷺ, if you see, doesn't say the reciter, but sahibiha, the one who owned it, who owned the message. It means more than reciting, also understanding, reflecting, and embodying, living the message. So it is a message that, if it is embodied, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, will intercede for us. There is another hadith when we are told that one of the Sahaba, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, put up a tent somewhere, and then he realized that that place was actually a grave, that someone was buried underneath. And when he realized that, he recited Surah Al-Mulk, the whole surah. Then he went to the Prophet ﷺ and told him what he did. And the Prophet ﷺ told him, Surah Al-Mulk is a prevention. It is salvation, delivering from the punishment of the grave. So among the Muslims, when you say Surah Al-Mulk, often people will associate it with deliverance from the punishment of the grave. And that's why lots of people, just as we are told to recite Surah Ayat al-Kursi before we go to sleep, some add also Surah Al-Mulk. So it is something to do with interceding, forgiveness, and deliverance from punishment. Inshallah, we'll go back from time to time to these meanings as we encounter them in the message of the surah. So the surah starts. I will right now share the first 4 ayat, although we will only be able to go through one, but just to give us an idea, because if I only read one ayah, we may not get an idea of what's going on. So the first 4 ayat, it starts with تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير. Blessed is he in whose hands rests all sovereignty, and he is all powerful over all things. He who has created death and life so that he may try you as to which of you is best in conduct, and he is the mighty, the forgiving. He who has created 7 heavens in full harmony with one another. You will not see any flaw in the creation of the merciful. Look again. Do you see any flaw? Then look again and yet again. Every time your sight will turn back to you, dazzled and truly defeated. So the actual text is تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير. Very interesting beginning. So the first ayah, well, before we start, let's keep in mind, as usual, that as far as we are concerned, we are the audience of this message, inshallah. So what it means that we are reading, our intention is to read and reflect and learn for ourselves and not for others and not for the mushriks of Mecca, for instance. The guidance is for us, and the good news is for us in this ayah. And it is for those who want to benefit from this divine guidance. And inshallah, our niyyah, our intention, we make the intention to benefit from this divine guidance. So it starts with تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير. And Tabaraka has been translated as blessed. Blessed is he, blessed or hallowed is he, exalted is he. Tabaraka is the 6th form of the verb baraka. It's like tafa'ala, fa'ala, tafa'ala, baraka, tabaraka. And the root tabaraka, the word al-baraka in Arabic, refers to abundance and excess in goodness. كثرة الخير وزيادته. So it's an abundance, increase, and excess in goodness. And it actually has 2 implications. When you say baraka in Arabic, you think of ziyada, increase and excess of goodness, but also of baqa, which is or dawam, endurance, everlastingness, stability, continuity. Buruk in Arabic actually means this dawam, continuity. So if something has barakah, it is both abundant and increasing, and at the same time it is enduring and permanent and stable. So tabaraka has the 2 connotations, the 2 meanings. One is that he, tabaraka alladhi, blessed is he who. The who here is abundant in goodness, and he is the source of all barakah, meaning all barakah proceeds from him alone. And he is the one who puts barakah in what he creates. This you can find in classical tafsir, commentaries on the Quran. For instance, you can check tafsir of Al-Razi. And the example that is usually given to this is, for instance, an ayah in Surah Ibrahim. Surah Ibrahim is the 14th surah, and the ayah is 34, when we are told, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. If you try to count God's blessings, you could never compute them. So this is an indication to the barakah in God's creation, in God's blessings. So, and that's one of the implications of tabarakah. And the second implication is that he himself is beyond anything we can imagine. He exceeds anything we can think of. For instance, if we think that God is compassionate and we observe his compassion and the traces of his compassion in the world, whatever we conclude from our observation and from our witnessing, his true compassion is beyond all that. And the ayah that is usually quoted for this is لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ, which is in Surah Shura, ayah 11. Surah Shura is Surah 42, when we are told لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ, there is nothing like unto him. Anything we think of, he exceeds that. He's beyond anything we can think of. Tabaraka. So barakah means blessings, and also blessings that are long-lasting and continuously increasing. It's very important, because if the more we understand the meaning of barakah and therefore of tabarakah, the more, if we can, or when we, inshallah, confirm the tabarakah in this ayah, the first term in this ayah, then it means we are holding on to the source of all goodness. Not only the source of all goodness, but the source of abundant goodness that is always increasing and everlasting. This is very important. It's good news. It's something that we need to consider seriously, because that's what we all long for. We long for a goodness that never ends. And here we are being guided towards the source of that goodness that never ends. And the source of these blessings is the one, we are told, is the one in whose hands rests all mulk. And mulk has been rendered as sovereignty. I said sovereignty. Some people say kingdom, dominion. Actually, it has all those meanings. And it also has a meaning of ownership. Mulk, remember Malik Yawmiddin, Malik there, the king, the owner of the Day of Judgment. This is from the same root. And so all mulk rests in his hand means all sovereignty, all kingdom, all dominion, all ownership, all control is in his hand. And if you notice, there is no mention of the name of God, Allah, but a description of his qualities that lead the seeker to witness and testify and eventually, inshallah, confirm the tabarakah. So this is an invitation to pay attention to who is the source of the barakah. And therefore it is guidance. This is guidance here and now to us. And so now, although God is mentioned after tabarakah in other passages in the Quran, there are passages in the Quran when we are told, Tabarakallah Rabbul Alameen. Blessed is God, the sustainer of all the worlds. However, for instance, we are told this in Surah Al-A'raf in ayah 54. However, this expression comes at the end of the ayah, not at the beginning. And actually, interestingly, the ayah starts, ayah 54 of Surah 7 starts with Inna rabbakumullahu alladhi khalaqa as-samawati wal ard. Truly, your Rabb, your sustainer, is God who has created the heavens and this earth in 6 ayahs and is established on the throne of his almightiness. He covers the day with the night in swift pursuit, with the sun and the moon and the stars subservient to his command. Truly, his is all creation and all command. ألا له الخلق والأمر تبارك الله رب العالمين. Blessed is God, the sustainer of all the worlds. So you see, this ayah, when God's name is mentioned after the Tabaraka immediately, the expression Tabaraka comes after introducing to us who our Rabb is. He is first described. We say, your Rabb is the one who does this, and then at the end, now we know who our Rabb is, then we are told Tabaraka, Allahu Rabbul Alameen. Also in Surah 40, Ayah 64 also, we are told فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. And there also, it comes at the end of the ayah, and the ayah starts with, it is God who has made the earth a resting place for you and the sky a canopy, and has formed you so well, and provided you with for your sustenance out of the good things of life. Such is God, your Rabb. Blessed is God, the sustainer of all the worlds. So you see, Tabaraka comes here. We are told Tabarakallah Rabbul Alameen, but who Rabbul Alameen is has already been described to us, so we know him. And in we also know Tabarakallahu Ahsan al-Khaliqeen, Ahsanul Khaliqeen, sorry. Blessed is God, the best of creators, in Surah 23, Ayah 14. And again, God is first introduces himself through his creation, something that we can see, observe, and examine and witness. And then so we can testify and truly confirm the Tabaraka, that he is the source of all barakah, all goodness. So in Ayah 14 of Surah 23, we're told, and then we create out of the drop of sperm a germ cell, and then we create out of the germ cell an embryonic lump, and then we create within the embryonic lump bones, and then we clothe the bones with flesh, and then we bring all this into being as a new creation. Blessed, therefore, is God, the best of the Creator. فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنُ الْخَالِقِينَ. In Surah Al-Furqan, however, Surah Al-Furqan is Surah 25, Ayah 61. It starts with Tabaraka, so there's no mention of the name of God. There is no. It starts with, there is a description of his creating, so we get to know him through his creation. So there is no explicit mention of God after the Tabaraka. It says Tabaraka alladhi ja'ala fi as-sama'i buruja. It starts like Surah Al-Mulk with, like the first ayah of Surah Al-Mulk, Tabaraka alladhi. Blessed is he who has set up in the skies great constellations and has placed among them a lamp and a light-giving moon. And it is he who causes the night and the day to succeed one another. Unto him who has the will to reflect, and has the will to be grateful. Subhanallah. And also in Surah Al-Zukhruf, Surah 43, Ayah 85, it starts with the word Tabaraka, and therefore it doesn't say Tabarakallah. We are told, وَتَبَارَكَ الَّذِي لَهُ الْمُلْكُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Blessed be, or blessed is he who unto whom the sovereignty over the heavens and the earth and all that is between them belongs, and with whom the knowledge of the last hour rests, and unto whom you all shall be brought back. Subhanallah. So if God's names has been mentioned from the outset without telling us who he is, we could easily assume that we know who God is. If we were told Tabarakallah from the beginning without telling us about his creation, what he does, then we would not feel the need to go and reflect on his creation and to get to know him. There will be no mystery, no invitation. And so we would take it for granted. If we think we know who God is, we will say, oh yeah, God, Tabarakallah. And if we do that, it means most probably we don't really know who God is. Because those who know God are not quick to make assumptions about him. And they are aware that he's always beyond. That's what one of the meanings of Tabarakal is, that he's beyond that what we can imagine. And that's why when God is mentioned, the true believers, their hearts tremble with awe. إنما المؤمنون الذين إذا ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم. Believers are only those whose hearts tremble with awe when God is mentioned. What does it mean? Only those whose heart tremble with awe when God is mentioned are truly believers. Otherwise, they may think they are believers, but they don't know what they're talking about. So this is in Surah Al-Anfal, Surah 8, Ayah 2. We are told believers are only those whose heart tremble with awe when God is mentioned, and when his ayat are conveyed onto them, they increase them. The ayat increase them in iman. وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا. And they trust their sustainer only. They put all their trust onto their sustainer. وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. They do not trust other things. They trust only their Rabb. Because they are aware of Tabaraka. They confirm to different degrees the Tabaraka. So this is it's a key concept. And the way it is introduced is also very important. It is guidance. And then we are told Tabaraka alladhi biyadihi al-mulk. Alladhi is relative pronoun, the one who. Biyadihi al-mulk. The normal word order in Arabic would be al-mulku biyadihi. The sovereignty, the kingdom is in his hands, meaning it belongs to him. But since it was said biyadihi al-mulk, the order has been reversed, then it means there is exclusivity of the ownership. It means that the sovereignty, the ownership, the kingdom, al-mulk, is in his hands alone. It belongs to him only and to nothing else and no one else. And the fact that the usual order is not used is also a device. It is an ayah in itself to make us pause and reflect, because, normally if you understand Arabic, it attracts your attention because the order is reversed. We know that when the order is reversed, it means this and that. However, still it makes the audience, the listener, pause and reflect. Oh, there is something going on here. It's not like it just belongs to him. Al-Mulk belongs to him. No, it belongs to him alone and to nothing else. There is that emphasis there. And it's the same with the rest. وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Usually, the usual order would be, in spoken Arabic, وهو قدير على كل شيء. He is powerful over everything. But here, وهو على كل شيء قدير, it means he alone is powerful over everything. There is again exclusivity that God or he here, but we know that it's referring to God, but the word God is not used yet because we are being introduced to who he is. So he has complete authority and complete control, full control over everything, and no one else has. It's totally his only alone. And Qadir here is an intensive, Qadir is also sometimes translated as all-powerful. And it has a reason, because Qadir is powerful. Qadir is the intensive form. Actually, it means all-powerful. It means permanently powerful. And Qadir also has the connotation that it refers to the one who does what he wills according to wisdom, according to measurement, not haphazardly. It's not brute power and force. Qudra means power and control over something, but it also has a connotation of qadr. Qadr is measure, it's limit. Miqdar is a measure as well. Qaddara is to decree, but also to measure, to limit. So when God decrees, he decrees, but not haphazardly. Everything has its measure. Everything is created on purpose, for a purpose, with wisdom, with knowledge. And so Qadir has that connotation as well, not only of power and control, but also of wisdom. So the first ayah consists of 3 parts. Tabaraka. And if we get what Tabaraka is, that he is the source, he is beyond anything you can think of, and he is the source of all barakah, of all goodness. And this goodness, this barakah, is increasing, permanent, enduring, abundant goodness. And so we may say, why? Like, how do we know? How can I say tabaraka if I have no evidence, if I've never witnessed it, observed it anywhere? Then we are told, because all sovereignty, all dominion, all ownership belongs to him only. How do we know? How can we verify this? Because he alone has power and control over all things. And this is something that we can verify in the world, in the creation around us. And to confirm this, we've seen in many passages in the Quran in the past how we were taught to look at the creation and observe how everything in the creation is an ayah, meaning they reflect God's names and attributes. And one of the most obvious one is power. They reflect power, and that power, we learn to realize that there is only one source of power. They all point to one source of power. Everything in the creation, in the world, indicate one single source of power. And so we saw this, and how we are guided in many different passages of the Quran to do just that, to learn how to follow up, how to observe the ayat, and how to read and decipher the ayat, how they are actually reflecting and indicating one single source of power. And in this particular surah, so apart from what we learned in the rest of the Quran so far, in this particular surah, we also are invited to reflect. So first we are invited to reflect on death and life in the ayah 2, and then on other parts of creation in ayah 3 and 4. So if you remember, in ayah 2 we are told, he who has created death and life so that he may try you as to which of you is best in conduct, and he is the mighty, the forgiving. Then comes again ayah 3 and 4, where we're told that close scrutiny, observation of the creation of the world reveals that the owner of sovereignty and the source of power and blessing is one. So we're told, he who has created 7 heavens in full harmony with one another, you will not see any flaw in the creation of the merciful. Look again. Do you see any flaw? So this is an invitation to look and to look again. Look, it means look, observe. Do you see any flaw? Ayah 4, then look again and yet again. Every time your sight will turn back to you, dazzled and truly defeated. It means dazzled means that we'll be at awe. Not only there is no flaw, but the perfection, the harmony, the interconnection, the many benefits that are so intricately interconnected are beyond our imagination. The more we specialize in a field, the more we are at awe at what we observe in the creation of the merciful, because it is also not only the creation points to power, but also to mercy. It's done so perfectly, and all for the benefit, especially of life and living beings. So for today, let me just note what I find very powerful in ayah 2, although I decided not to start the second ayah because then it would be too long, and last year the decision was to shorten as much as possible because it became too long and people would not follow. But if you please share your comments, your feelings, your reflections, that'll be nice too. So for me, right after this تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير comes الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور. If you remember, we did talk the past 2 weeks about ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. So that God, the creation, one of the purposes of the creation is to try us. And we talked about what it means to try us. It's not just to make life difficult for us. It's the opposite. To give us, it's an opportunity for us to fulfill our potential in this life, and inshallah, get ready, prepare for the eternal life. So here, first, death is mentioned before life. خلق الموت والحياة. Usually it's يحيي ويميت. It's God deals death and grants, deals life and grants death. So usually life comes more often. Life comes first, but here it's death. It says he creates. We'll talk about that next week, inshallah. He creates. God, he has created death and life. So death is a creation, because often we think of death as an absence of life, as something not existing, that's death. And so the fact that we are told خلق الموت attracts our attention. So what is death? If it is something created, where is it? It makes us pause. Well, it makes me pause because I can't take this for granted. What do you mean he creates death? And the fact that death is mentioned before life reminds me again that reflecting on death and remembering death is what makes us understand and appreciate life the best. It makes us appreciate the gift of life and appreciate that life is being given to us. It's a gift, but it's a gift that is being gifted to us right now, here and now, because usually we think it's a gift when I was born and now it's mine, or I don't question it. And by not questioning it, I act as if right now it's not a gift. Right now it's mine somehow. I just don't want to ask any questions because I don't want to face the reality. I mean, let's face it. If we find, I mean, it's not if we find ourselves in ghafla, inshallah, we'll find ourselves in ghafla less and less often. We find ourselves in ghafla not because we forget, and that's why, oh, like I have no, I'm excused. What can I do? I forgot, and I lived in ghafla. No. It's because I did not make any effort to remember, because I didn't like, well, I didn't like my reality, the reality. I didn't learn how to make peace with it. I didn't work on myself how to surrender to my reality. And so I ignore it by not remembering. It's a selective forgetfulness. If we truly are sincere, then there are many ways to keep ourselves remembering. We will forget, yes, but at least let's make an effort to remember more and more often, inshallah. Even if we have like 20-30% of living in the presence of God, still, however much, that will be our investment. That, because only that has a future. Everything else has no future. Everything else is transient and doomed to, is dead. So remembering death is very important because it reminds us of that reality. It reminds us that we have no ownership and no power over our lives. And it's very easy when we remember this to confirm the message of the first ayah. It's very easy then to confirm Tabaraka, because yes, Mulk, everything belongs to him, and power over my life is his. So our lives are ayat. They are signs indicating the one source of sustaining of life. And they are ayat indicating his all-encompassing power. And if we keep this reality in mind, the reality that we are mortal, the reality of death here and now, that we are mortal means not only that one day we will die, but right now, my past is not here, my yesterday is not here, my morning. this morning is not here. I am returning to God constantly, whether I'm aware of it or not. That's the reality. That's what it means that we are mortal. We are travelers in that path. Death is always part of our life because it has to happen for the new, something has to go for the new to come. So death is part of our life here and now. So if we're aware of this reality, we won't take anything for granted. We won't be able to take anything for granted with this awareness. Especially not our time, not our life. We do forget, but the aim is to introduce more and more mindful living, mindful in the sense of waking up from ghafla. And the best way to wake up from ghafla is to remain mindful of the reality of death, the reality that we are mortal, to realize that, and then we realize what truly matters. And we start making our choices accordingly in those moments of wakefulness. When we are in ghafla, things that are not very important they can fill our little worlds. They make us happy, unhappy, depressed, angry. And the moment we wake up and look at them from the perspective of reality, things totally change. Sometimes we find out that we were drowned. We can be drowned in a feeling that has no basis in reality. It's just because we forgot who we are and who we are as mortal, and therefore as ibadallah, because it is through remembering this reality that I will be able to start observing, seeing, how do you say? Yeah, seeing, witnessing the rububiyyah that manifests through me. Because the more I see how weak and how needy of everything I am, the more I realize that I am being sustained right now. I'm not doing it myself. I'm not living. I am sustained in life. I'm not breathing. My breath is being sustained for me. And so everything, our perspective of life and of what is important and what is not, will start changing, bi'idhnillah, inshallah. And then we'll realize that anything that doesn't bear fruits in akhirah is not worth our attention. Or from another perspective, let's say, we will start looking for ways to find that aspect that looks to akhirah, that looks to eternity in our daily life, in seemingly simple matters of life. And that will happen, or that happens, bi'idhnillah, inshallah, when we can interact with everything as God's mulk. I used to say, as God's ayat. If they are His ayat, when we start seeing things in ayah, that's it. They will be testifying the fact that something is an ayah. It means that it is coming from God with a message about God. And as I read the message, I confirm that it is from God. Therefore, it is His mulk. It is His property. And it can only be His property. As Imam Badi'u Zaman Sa'id Nursi, rahimahullah, says, there is a stamp on everything. The way they are created testify that they are His mulk. Nothing else can claim them. No one else and nothing else. And so if everything is His properties, everything is His mulk, then ourselves, our life is also His mulk. And actually, it is when, or to the extent that we realize that our life is also His mulk, that we can truly digest, truly comprehend and grasp what it means that everything is his mulk. Because we may intellectually understand at some level that yes, everything, they don't own themselves. Clearly, they are being made. But it is to the extent that I witness and bear witness and testify that my own life is his mulk, is his property, then I will be able to grasp that reality in the world out there as well. And I will understand what it means that we belong to him. Everything belongs to him. And that's great news, because if we belong to him, then tabaraka, then we found the source of all goodness, of abundant goodness and everlasting goodness. And I'll stop here, and I'd like to invite all of us to spend this week reflecting how we are his mulk. In different ways, you can take notes and share with each other. Let's reflect on our mortality. The more I realize my mortality, one way, in the very beginning, one simple way could be, at least everyone can grasp that, I could be dead now, right? But I'm not. I could be dead means I'm mortal. It means I can die anytime. What's the other side of this reality? It means life is not mine. It is not under my control. So under whose control is it? Whose life is it? Where is life coming from? And the more we do this, the more we will feel grateful for life, and the more we will value life, and the more we will be grateful to the source of life, and the more we will wonder, we will want to know more about the giver of life, the sustainer of life. And as we reflect on our mortality, another side effect of this is we realize our weakness, our powerlessness, our helplessness. It does not come, there is nothing in me that necessitates that I be alive right now. I have no control and no power. And this also mirrors, reflects that someone else's power. My life is now in my body by someone else's power, someone else's control. And so we can take this reflection to other attributes. For instance, our lack of knowing. Knowledge does not come from me. When I'm curious about something, I am asking for knowledge. Knowledge is a gift unto us, and we can lose it at any time. Just in case someone says, no, I don't think it's a gift, I worked for it. No, our work for it isn't even as I'm reading, I'm doing, I'm searching and inquiring. That inquiry is itself an asking, and it is given. Sometimes you can read something and never understand it. So the fact that we understand and we get to know something at the end is a gift. And we can lose it anytime. We can forget it. We can forget things partially or totally. Is it possible that I forget even who I am? Totally possible. How can I claim that I am the source of it? There is no way. So we have no control over anything that we own. So we say we own something. Yes, it's for practical reason to use those words. It makes life easy. But it doesn't mean that we are the true Malik, the true owners Malik al-Mulk is only the one who has power over all things. We're only temporary custodians. We are khalifas. We are, everything is given to us as amana, as a trust. So let's not betray the trust by appropriating it to ourselves and thinking, imagining that we are the true owner. And by doing so, we end up using it foolishly and squandering it on matters that have no lasting outcome. And who is the loser in that deal? We're the losers. We're the ones who will be wasting our lives for nothing. So let's at least become aware enough to make istighfar and to make some investments, and for the rest we can at least ask for forgiveness. Remember, one of the messages of this surah is the forgiveness. And in the, was it in the second or the first?
Second. Yeah, and the second.
The second. هو العزيز الغفور. God is almighty, all forgiving. Alhamdulillah. So yeah, so not betraying the trust means it means using it according to the will of its true owner, its true gifter, because he alone knows how to use it. He created for a purpose, and he alone can tell us what the purpose is and how to use everything he gifted us in the best, in the most efficient way that will bear fruits in this life and in the next, in a way that will bring us the satisfaction, the fulfillment, the happiness that we've been made, we are created that way to long for, inshallah. So this is the assignment, to reflect on our mortality and our limitedness, and how does that mirror and reflect that God is that mulk belongs to him, is his property alone, that life, nothing is mine actually. Everything is given to me, and everything is an ayah pointing back to him. So I'll stop here inshallah. Subhanallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yamina. This is really nice, and thank you for the assignment. Inshallah, we can reflect on being owned, being part of his sovereignty, and stop playing that we are in charge. And as you were talking, I remembered a couple things. One is how Buddhism Ansari Nursi talks about the good news of Lahu Al-Mulk, saying that the mulk, the sovereignty, completely belongs to the Creator, is actually packed with good news for us, because it means we can stop worrying about controlling things, carrying the burden of making sure things happen in this way or that way. When we return the mulk to its owner, meaning recognize that everything, including my life, is in his hands completely, that's actually really good news. There's a part in us that, commonly known as the ego, wants to say, oh no, I'm losing something. In reality, actually, we are gaining a lot. And in this regard, I've recently watched this relatively spiritual movie recommended by a friend called The Shift. And in that, the person is using a different religion, a Chinese religion perspective, but he's talking about surrender and very similar ideas. You can even feel the the universal prophetic message even in that religion as well. So he gave this example, which is interestingly so much resonating with the Quranic view. He gave the example of the baby in the womb, and he said the one who is taking care of all details of you in those 9 months. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to say, oh, make sure my this is this part I'm adding. We didn't say, oh, make sure, don't forget the intestines, and don't forget the blood vessels. They have to be 50,000 miles, no less. Like every detail has been taken care of, and you were in a state of surrender, and everything was perfect. So the one who takes care of you during those 9 months, he can take care of all your needs in the next 90 years as well. And stop resisting that. Basically, he was saying, and I felt like, well, what a relieving message that is, and that's at the heart of the Quranic invitation too. That when we turn away from recognizing, I mean, if we look at it from the Quranic perspective, it made a lot of sense. I don't know if everybody who watches that has that perspective, but it had a very interesting connections, and the sense of relief that it brings to human heart was very clear in that movie as well. So when you said reflect on this, I got excited because I was like, oh, this can be something really exciting for us to discover, that we're totally dependent on our Creator, and that's actually good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, it's the most powerful way of waking up from ghafla is to remember our mortality, our death, and we did talk about it in one of our, when we talked about the significance of death, and we looked at various ayat mentioning it. It's like if we write one of those ayat, they're all about kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut, for instance. And if we just remember it like few times a day, then maybe more and more often, until it becomes part of our reality. I may forget, but I always come back to it. I have something to fall back on. The more we remember that, the more we will remember our ubudiyya. We will start seeing the traces of rububiyya everywhere, the activity of rububiyya everywhere. We'll start realizing how everything is being an ayah, indicating the beautiful names of God, and we'll feel our gratitude will go to God, and we will feel more grateful more often, because we will be focused more on what is given to us than on what we imagine should be and is not. And also our perspective on life will change. So our plans for life and everything will change, because we will be able to surrender more and more, and therefore to make tawakkul, to trust on our Rabb more and more, rather than on people or money, on things that in our imagination, in our ghafla, we give power to instead of God, which are all ways of implicit shirk. Even if it's not explicit, it's there. And that's because we don't know who God is as our Rabb. The Tabaraka, we are not saying it from the bottom of our heart.
Thank you for sharing that, Jazakallah khair. As somebody, looks like somebody wants to talk. Please go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So, thank you very much. It was very nice, and I just thought I'll share a comment that was coming to my mind, especially about the assignment of reflecting on our mortality. And as I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking, what came to mind immediately was perhaps one way I can do it is, and I'm just wondering, really thinking out loud, how I can contemplate that mortality of mine. And one avenue that I feel maybe I can follow is to think about all the things that I love. Because sometimes what really kills me, I feel, using that word deliberately in terms of mortality, is the betrayal of the things that I love. A lot of times I feel my life, not so much in a biological sense of, my breathing, but just by default, almost what life means to me is so much of it is all the things that I love, and that give that, I feel that what I love gives meaning to that life worth having or worth living, and dying, those things that I love, that I hold dear, that maybe I can think about how faithful they are, how can they reciprocate my love for them, and maybe one way of thinking about my mortality is to think about ways in which those things that I love most betray me, kill me in some sense. So that's just something that came to my mind outside I shared. And thank you very much. It's very nice.
Thank you for sharing. Do you mean you feel they betray you because of their mortality, or is there something else going on here? Or do you feel you are alive through them, or your life has meaning through them? I'm trying to understand.
So I think what you said last, I was thinking of that when I think about my life, it seems without realizing I give it meaning in terms of, my love of those things around me. And if in terms of the exercise that as I'm going to try to think about my mortality, I was thinking maybe one way for me to do that about thinking about my mortality is to, my life going away, is to think about how when I, the way that I'm loving things in ghafla, is it, the way it kind of like kills me and makes my life lose its meaning and makes it worthless. And that's a kind of, the mortality of the objects of my love, their betrayal is tied to sort of losing meaning, and so in that sense, mortality, where I don't actually have a life worth living when I love things in a state or in a way that traffic obstructions on that is not meaningful. So.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you for sharing that. That's true. Actually, maybe that's what that love for things around us that gives us that a fake, false sense of meaning is what we use to insulate ourselves and not face the reality that everything is mortal, they are mortal, and we are mortal. And therefore, when we face that reality, all those meaning that we can give to our life being worth it loses its its worth and its value and its meaning, and therefore I'll find myself faced with either hiding even more in ghafla, or I'll have to find out something grounded that will ground my reality, something that is lasting and doesn't die, doesn't kill me.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, thank you, Jazakumullah khair. I think that those beloveds can kill us in both ways. I mean, the sense that when I realize that I'm going and I'm immortal and they can do nothing to save me from that, that is one way in which they betray me. And another way is that
well, I'm still here.
Yeah, they are passing. They leave me. I may be here, but they go. So that's a double. Either they are passing, or they do not stop me from passing. So either way, mortality and things that are attached, attached in a ghafla mind. So it's good to bring death into that, to shatter that, and they bring death either way into the picture. Yeah.
Actually, because that facing that betrayal is so painful that we don't want to, often we don't want to leave the ghafla, because it may be painful, but at least we know what it is, and we try to avoid it in different ways, but it's still our zone of comfort. But now this is in the Quran. We are not told just leave without knowing where you are going. We are first, it's like the ayah puts light on a new perspective, a new reality that we were not aware of, and then invites us to get into that reality of light, out of the darkness. Now, in the beginning, it takes some courage. It takes intentional making that choice, making that first step. But the more we go there and we see and experience how it feels more comfortable, it's more real, it's more beautiful, the more it becomes easier to go back to that realm of light. So let's just make that decision and step into the light, inshallah.
Inshallah. That immediately reminds of Ibrahim alayhi salam's bala test. That, in one way it was a painful step to attempt at sacrificing his son. At the same time, that was actually an invitation for deeper light, to love his son as a gift. And not,
or even in the beginning, to leave his family, leave his father, his people, even when you know they are doing something nonsense. It's not easy to leave what you're comfortable with, people you are familiar with. I mean, leaving, maybe not in the sense of physically leaving them, but not sharing the same values and the same worldview. But the truth is, it's the only way. It's the only truth. If we stay there, we're only deluding ourselves and deceiving ourselves. And if we leave, then when that, we may be able to help the beloveds. And if we don't, we're all doomed together.
Jazakumullah khair. Is there anybody else who wants to comment? Okay, so if not that, in that case, we will pause here. Yes? Inshallah, in that case, we will pause here and we will continue our journey to Surah 67, Al-Mulk, next week. In the meantime, please reflect on the assignment and inshallah we can share next week. Have a beautiful, blessed week of remembering, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair, Sister Yamina, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight.
Jazakumullah khair. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.